What happens when two dudes, one a retired Navy SEAL commander in Colorado Springs, and the other a hippie meditation teacher in New York City, get together to discuss living mindfully? That's a great question, because we don't know what will happen either. Raw, uncut, and unapologetic. Welcome to Men Talking Mindfulness with co-hosts John McCaskill and Will Schneider. Each week, we take an authentic dive into how mindfulness continually impacts our lives, deepens our relationships, and allows us to be emotionally alive. Now, on to the show.
Hey, welcome to Men Talking Mindfulness, where we do our best each week to demystify and make mindfulness meaningful to you. I'm Will Schneider here in New York City with my co-host and brother from another mother, John McCaskill, over there in Colorado Springs. Today, we are fortunate to have a former professional athlete turned motivational speaker and CEO, Rennie Curran, on the show today. Rennie, John, and I will be discussing how to be a mindful entrepreneur. It can be tough to stay mindful with the grind and being an entrepreneur. Rennie is going to help us to understand how mindfulness enhances your entrepreneurial pursuits by allowing us to remain calm, centered, and in the moment in the face of adversity. And we will get into much more here shortly. But first, over to John for some announcements. What's up, John? It was great. And just everyone knows this is the episode after I went out to Colorado Springs to work with John and Teresa. So it's good to see John back on the virtual. So how's it going, John?
It's going well, man. As you saw last week, the household is a little chaotic every day, but it's a lot of fun. So it was great having you out here, and it's good, I guess, to be back in the virtual world. But yeah, as far as announcements, first off, thank you all for tuning in. If that's on video or via podcast, we appreciate you. We couldn't do this without you, our listeners. And that said, please, please, please help us to grow the show and spread our important messages by liking the episode with that thumbs up button on YouTube. So whether you're listening or not, go check out YouTube and give this episode a thumbs up and give the other episode a thumbs up. And then hit that subscribe button there too. This is one place where the number of likes and subscribers actually matter. So again, please hit that like and subscribe button on YouTube, listening to the podcast. We'd love it if you too. You guys are as much a part of this show as we are. All right, enough shameless plugs. I lied. One more. If you're a company leader that is looking to create a more mindful workforce and culture, hit us up. We have helped several companies already. Maybe yours is next. If you want to learn more, send us an email. That's will@mentalkingmindfulness.com or John, Jon, at mentalkingmindfulness.com. All right. Let's bring Rennie up, and Will do the honors of doing that bio. Welcome, Rennie.
What's up? Yeah, welcome, Rennie. Welcome, Rennie.
Hey.
All right. So thanks for joining us today. So born in Atlanta, Georgia, and son of Liberian immigrants, Rennie Curran is a former professional athlete and now CEO of Game Changer Coaching, where he uses his platform to inspire students, athletes, and business professionals to reach their fullest potentials. As an athlete, Rennie has fulfilled his childhood dreams by becoming a 3-time collegiate All-American, a Butkus Award finalist, which is for defense. Yeah, that's for best defensive player, right? A permanent team captain at the University of Georgia. And then in 2010 was drafted into the NFL by the Tennessee Titans. Rennie is a true entrepreneur, inspiring the business community with his keynote speeches and also as a personal development coach. He founded and runs a non-for-profit called the Game Changers Foundation, which is helping athletes become leaders in sports, business, and in life. And last but not least, Rennie is also an author of 2 books. One is Free Agent, The Intangibles of Overcoming Adversity and Times of Transition, and What Does It Take to Be a Star, a children's book co-written by his 9-year-old daughter, Elena Curran. Thank you so much for joining us. Rennie, how are you feeling today?
Man, I'm great. I'm excited. I'm taking some time off. Well, not really, but you never taking time off as an entrepreneur. But it's a working vacation out in Hilton Head, so I'm enjoying the views, but still working, still at it, man. So excited to be on with you all.
We're excited to have you, man. Excited to have you. And I love that you co-wrote that book with your 9-year-old daughter, man. That's fantastic. One day
Yeah,
I'll do
it
that
was
with my daughters.
definitely, man. It was. I mean, I would recommend that for every parent. It doesn't have to be a book, right? Like anything that you see your kid kind of gravitating towards, and something that you may be passionate about, just having them be a part of it, because it's just a powerful thing to create that exposure, create new norms for your children, let them know that they can accomplish whatever it is that they put their mind to, and then just it becomes normal for them, right? Like that's the coolest thing we have as parents, is the ability to create new norms, create new beliefs, and new expectations for our kids. And I think that was one of the coolest things about it, because now she's 13. We wrote it when she was 8, but she's like now looking at writing her next book. It's
Oh,
normal.
wow.
It's normal. Yeah, it's
There you
crazy.
go.
That's
Another
awesome.
entrepreneur in the works.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it. That's it. So,
There you go.
She's already building a resume.
yeah, it's like, why wait, right?
Yeah, right.
Exactly.
Well, awesome. Well, we said before we hit record, we kick off every episode with a grounding practice. Just to get our minds right, so that we're focused in the conversation, and also to get our minds and nervous systems and bodies just settled, so that we're here in this time, in this space, and we're not thinking about or feeling some other time and space. So that said, if you are comfortable, go ahead and get into that comfortable position, whatever that might look like for you. And if closing your eyes is safe and comfortable, then go ahead. I invite you to do that. Otherwise, just soften your gaze, soften your focus. Let's bring our attention to this time and this space by focusing on the physical sensations of our breath. Breathing in through your nose if you're able, and then out through your mouth. Breathing in, noticing where the air is entering your body, and out, noticing where the air is leaving your body. Breathing in and noticing your lungs inflating, expanding your chest and expanding your belly. And breathing out, lungs deflating, chest and belly acting. And one more deep breath together, in through your nose. Hold at the top. Keep holding and relax. Let it go. Nice and slow, slow, slow. Now just breathe naturally. Just being quiet for a moment and noticing if your mind has wandered off. That's okay. Just notice that and then bring it back. Bring it back to this time, this place. No reason to be frustrated with yourself if you notice that. Just notice it and bring it back. That's where the magic often happens, is noticing that your mind has tiptoed away and coming back over and over and over again. And we'll wrap it up with one more last deep cleansing breath together. Begin by breathing out as much air as you can. Breathing in nice and deep. And relax, letting it go nice and slow, slow, slow. Now, start to bring some movement back into your body, maybe moving your head around, stretching your neck, and blinking your eyes open if they're closed. Otherwise, just refocusing. Rennie, thanks for letting us guide you through that.
Yes,
for the audience, thank you for letting us guide you through that. And here we are. Rennie, let's jump into this, man. What did we not cover in your bio that you would like our audience to know about you?
I mean, really just the challenges, right? A lot of times when you come on different interviews, it's about the pedigree, and it's about the accomplishments and the things that make people go wow. But as you know, as well as I do, there's always another side of the story. There's always the valley moments. There's always those times, so many times where you're like, man, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know where I'm going. Like, I don't even know if this is gonna work out. I don't know what my
All the
peers
time.
like. There's always those questions along your journey, and being able to navigate those times is what leads you to those major moments, those major accomplishments. So I think that's the biggest thing that wasn't covered that I love talking about, man. Is just like I said, those challenges, man, those setbacks, the adversity, the times where I doubted myself, man, the times where like I didn't know how I was gonna get through, and I just somehow, like some way, through grace, through people uh, who came into my life, man, that I still don't understand why, but they did, and they blessed me. That's the real story right there.
Yeah, do you have
Nice.
a particular challenge that kind of sticks out in your mind that has really helped you,
Mm.
catapult into more mindfulness or a redefining Rennie, if you want, or something like that? Is there anything that kind of rings true?
Man, there's so many times like I didn't even know what mindfulness was as I was going through these different moments in life. Like I had no clue, meditation, anything like that. But when I look back over my life now, I can specifically think of specific moments when mindfulness was there and I was using it and I didn't even know it, but it was just a way to cope with where I was at.
Yeah.
And when I think of just my experience on the field as an athlete, I was labeled undersized, right? So one of
Yeah.
my greatest competitive edge, or my ability to differentiate myself, had a lot to do with mindfulness. And
Yeah.
a lot of times it would take place when I'm on the field, and I'm shorter, so I got to go up against these offensive linemen. I play linebacker, so I got to go against 6'3" to 6'8" offensive linemen who are running up, and then I got a running back who's coming behind them who's faster than me. And so being in that fight or flight moment where it's like the ball snaps and I come within myself and it becomes quiet. And now I'm moving faster. It's almost like you tap into your spidey senses or something, but I'm
Yeah.
yeah, it's like an outer body experience. Or it might be on kickoff where bodies are just flying everywhere and I have to like literally be calm in that moment so I can be able to
Yeah.
navigate all the different stimulus that's I'm being faced with. So
Yeah.
that's a specific time where I can think of just how mindfulness played a role in allowing me to excel and perform at a higher level without me even realizing it.
Was there a particular technique? Was it like breathing, feeling your feet? Was it like, or like a mantra to yourself in some ways? Because that's got to be a very intense environment when you have like a six
Mantra.
six, 300-pound lineman barreling down on you, and a
Yeah.
running back that's ready to kick your asses too and run over you, right? Like, so what was like, so take us in deeper into the helmet, if you will, of what,
Yeah.
like, what would you do? Like, what was specific, mindfulness tool that you
Mm.
would employ on the sidelines, on the field, off the field,
Yeah.
practice? Like, were there some certain things?
Oh yeah. I mean, without a doubt, it started in the film room, right? Before I got out on that field, there was a preparation piece. So that involved a lot of just repetition, visualization. When you talked about a mantra, and I could think about a specific mantra. I didn't think about it as a mantra then, but it definitely was a mantra. When my mantra was body bags, like whoever.
Yes.
But I'm trying to hit everything moving. I'm trying to hit everything moving. So I'm just in my head. I'm like, hey man, if you get hit, you're going down like body bags. And so that put me in that mode where I'm just like a hunter. I'm like Terminator mode. I'm water boy, just trying to hit every single thing moving. And because of that film study I did, like the visualization, my ability to anticipate what was happening before, it's like I'll get that tingling sensation before a ball snaps because I've seen so many times like a lineman leaning a little bit when he does a certain play, or a running back, his eyes get big or whatever. So now my ability to visualize or anticipate is now increased because of my preparation. And then now it's just about me being calm in that moment, not getting caught up in everything else that's going on, the crowd, the
Yeah.
noise, all those things, just silencing the noise. And then when that
Mm,
ball snaps, just really tapping into my abilities, feeling every angle, feeling like where that ball is tracking, like just, my vision, my feeling. A lot of it was about instincts playing linebacker. And that has a lot to do with mindfulness as well, too. But just being
yeah.
aware of your environment and being aware of the different angles that I had. I mean, it got very, very specific the higher that I went, because it would be like I have a hole this big to get inside of in order to make that play. And if I miss that, that's it. It's gone. The opportunity is gone. So I had to be super, super mindful and just have a heightened awareness on every single snap.
Wow.
Well, we talked briefly about, your entrepreneurial pursuits, since you've left pro sports.
Yeah.
And what does entrepreneurship look like to you, one, and then two, how have you brought that mindful practice that you had on the field into your entrepreneurship?
Yeah. I'm so glad you asked, man. Like, it really is the same game for me, man. Like every morning I wake up, I'm thinking about how can I make a play. And of course, like my entrepreneurship journey started not necessarily because I was trying to accomplish something or achieve the next goal or type of thing. It was really because I thought of those who would be in the same position that I was. And I think empathy was my biggest driver for becoming an entrepreneur. And that was why I became a author. I wrote the book Free Agent. Um, it's really about the intangibles that it takes to overcome times of adversity and times of transition. But I wrote that because I was in a place, man, where I was cut. I just got cut. I was 22 years old, going through a midlife crisis. Like, what the heck am I doing with my life? Where am I going to go next? And training 4 hours a day, just waiting on an opportunity that I didn't even know was going to come. And then I just, once again, just had that mindfulness moment. I was journaling. That was another technique that I was doing at that time. And I realized through the process of journaling and just reflection and everything that I've been through, that there were going to be so many other people who would be in that same position, or who were going through that at that same time. And maybe it wasn't they got cut from their team. Maybe it was they got fired from their job, or they lost their business, or they're going through divorce, or they're just going through some major moment of transition. And that's what became my biggest driver for being an entrepreneur. And so that's what it is to me, man. Like, entrepreneurship is about solving problems. It's about empowering others. It's about using your own experiences and your knowledge and your abilities to make life easier and create solutions. And when it comes to just how I took being a linebacker into entrepreneurship, man, it's like so many transferables. So when I talk about just that ability to anticipate, visualization, just that perseverance, that delayed gratification. So knowing that you got to make those calls, you got to put the reps in, and you still may not get the result that you want, the outcome that you want. But still knowing and believing that something good is going to happen, right? It may not be exactly the outcome that you want, but you're growing in some area that you may not even realize. So there's so many things that I took away from the game, man, and just even that drive, man, that belief that I'm going to win regardless of the outcomes, regardless of how much the odds are against me, the numbers are against me. I'm going to find a way to win. That belief, man, has transferred over and has really, really helped me succeed as an entrepreneur.
I imagine
awesome.
some of the, thank you for all that. And I really am going to read your book now, because I really, I'm very curious, especially one part about, overcoming, those adversities, or overcoming, your expectations not meeting what's happening in reality. Like, that must have been a really hard blow for you at 22, getting cut from the Titans. And then it's like, kind of like a mid-athlete crisis. Like, now what the hell do I do with my life? Right? I'd imagine that's got to be, because like I from like age 6, you're probably playing football all the way until 22, and it's like there must have been that identity crisis too. Like, who am I? And then which I love about what you just said, you overcame that adversity, and then turned it into something enriching and powerful, not just for yourself but for other people. So walk us through a little bit of that, like, instead of like getting depressed. I can imagine, like, and I'm sure there's a lot of athletes at 22, getting cut professionally and then taking on alcohol or drugs or, whatever else they can do to kind of numb and distract themselves. But instead you move forward, and maybe there was a bit of a dark time there too. But maybe touch on that a little bit, please.
Yeah, I mean, I could talk about that all day. And now that I'm removed from that moment, I can really, like, I've been able to really dissect it and like everything that I experienced. And now I can truly help somebody like navigate that time. So it's so powerful when you go through that and you don't even understand why, and you realize later that it's bigger than you. And the first thing that I realized was, like, when you go through transition like that, especially something that's a major part of your life, like, it's literally like part of you dies. And so you go through the grieving process without even realizing. So there's the denial, all the stages of grief that you go through in that moment, especially when you can't control it. So I went through that process of being angry, being resentful, being in denial, all that. And then there was also the process of like self-discovery. So just learning my identity, learning my true values away from that jersey, because when you have the jersey on or that uniform or that job title, it gives you a certain set of values or a certain perspective on yourself. And so when that's removed, you have to redefine that, like what my personal values are, what your personal vision is. Who am I? What makes me who I am outside of this jersey or this title. So that was another major process of just understanding myself, doing a personal skills inventory. So having to learn what skills do I have that I can use to add value to the marketplace if I can never go back to playing again. So that's what led me to start writing and speaking and doing different things. And then another thing that I understand about transition now that I didn't understand before is that there's multiple layers of transition. And what I mean by that is you have the physical transition of you not doing that activity that you were doing before. And then you have the mental transition of, the fact that you're not in that position anymore. So there's the ego, right? Of who am I now? So there's that transition. Yeah, redefining who you are. And then the third transition is how others see you.
Right. That's got to be challenging too, right? Man. It's like, wait, Rennie was always a football player, and it's like, what? Now you're gonna be telling me about what?
Yeah. So your own family struggles with like how to, in some situations, like if your parents, the only time they really acknowledge you was when you were playing that sport, or your friends, your relationships, like your business partnerships were based off of that position that you're in. Now that becomes a huge transition where like they really don't know how to relate to you, or like when you walk into a room and you're used to being acknowledged and people are like, oh, that's Rennie right there. He's a player. And now they're like, oh, didn't you used to play once upon a time? Like that will mess with your head, especially if your whole identity is based around that. And so there's just so many layers to transition, man, that makes it extremely, extremely tough. And for me, the first thing that really I realized I had to control was my thoughts and my narrative in that moment. The story I was telling myself, man. Like I remember just being in that position where I was by myself, I'm training. I'm just like, and those thoughts start to creep in like, dang, am I ever going to play again? Like, what am I going to do next? Like, how am I going to overcome this? Who am I? And then I had to control my narrative and tell myself, man, this is a blessing. I now have time. Right. So I flipped it. Instead of looking at it like I got cut, I looked at it as now I have time. I have time to work on myself. I have time to work on other things.
Good for you.
I have time to, it became, I flipped it to something that was empowering. And I think that's one of the most powerful things you can do is when you're in a tough situation and time of adversity, transition, is making sure that your narrative is such that you're in control, like you're still winning. And that's what really made the difference for me and allowed me to be able to capitalize in that moment and like see opportunities where other people may have seen like just darkness and just a valley moment. I saw like the light, man. And that little bit of light was what I needed to just step forward.
How long did it take you to get to that epiphany? I'd imagine there's got to be dropped into the valley of darkness for some time, imagine. And then, you rose up with this, or at least saw the top of the mountain, if you will, with this epiphany. How long was that, did it take to transition, through the valley of darkness into the Rennie that we're speaking to today?
Yeah. Oh man, that was a process. I'm not going to lie. And it was for those like first 2 to 3 months, man, it was really, really, really challenging because like you ain't getting any paychecks anymore. So and then like the thing that hurts or that is really challenging is when people come up to you and they're like, so what are you doing now? So what are you doing now? And it's like, you can't answer that question as a man. A lot, for us as men, a lot of our purpose and our self-worth comes from what we do, our titles and our jobs and the ability to provide. So when that's gone, it becomes that question like, dang, what am I? Who am I? Like, what am I going to do next? And if you can't answer it, it kills your ego. And so like having to face that battle, man, and then get to the point where I wasn't defined by that, by like being able to say, oh, I play for this team, or, I do this. Like that was a journey. And like I said, it took about about a good 3-4 months where I had to journal. I had to really just reflect on myself. I had to uncover the things that of value that I brought outside of my jersey, and even becoming secure in that was still a struggle. So it still, even after I got to that point, I'm writing the book, I'm doing the speaking, I'm still having that imposter syndrome, right? So it was an ongoing thing, and it's like you never fully transition. You have to integrate like that past life into who you become, if that makes sense.
I like the way you put
Yeah, it
that.
does.
And
Yeah,
and Rennie, there's actually a lot of parallels in what it is you went through and
yeah,
what a military transition looks
right.
like. I will say I had years to plan from my military transition, and
Hmm.
I know a lot of athletes don't get that time. They're playing one day and then
Yep.
maybe the next they're not. Um,
Hmm.
and I actually went through a program called Tuck Next Step, where that's at Dartmouth's business school, their Tuck
Right.
Business School, and they kind of put us through 10 days of like cramming for business. Hey, this is what business looks like, and it's
Right.
transitioning service members and transitioning professional athletes.
Mm.
So we have NBA, we have NFL, we have some of the Major League Baseball, some Olympic athletes all coming through there. And
Yeah.
initially, you're like, we all get put in one room and we all stand on one side of the room. All the military
Hmm.
transitioners stand on one and the athletes stand on the other. Like, what do those people have in common to me?
Right.
And then you start talking, you're like, oh wow, we actually have a lot in common. There's a
Yep.
lot. Like that uniform, like you said, kind of defines who you are. You
Yep.
walk into a room, somebody sees my rank, they see, what branch of service I am, what I did in that branch of service. They automatically know, a good portion of who I am.
Yeah.
But then, who is John McCaskill outside of uniform versus Commander McCaskill in uniform? There's
Yeah.
certainly overlap there, but once you hang up that uniform, you need to be able to kind of figure out your own personal ideals and values, which you hit on there. As you wear a uniform, you have a set of ideals and values kind of given to you, but then you need to
Yep.
figure out what Rennies are. But
Definitely.
you did a lot of introspective work in journaling. You did
Mm.
that work in knowing that you were kind of mindful even on the field prior to that.
Yeah.
What brought you to that? Like, what a lot of people think that journaling is a bunch of snake oil and that's a waste of time. A lot of people think that mindfulness is a waste of time. What brought you to that in the first place?
Man, I think part of it was just because I'm an introvert, and a part
Me too, man.
introvert.
Me too, big
Yeah.
time.
And so I realized, man, how damaging or how dangerous being an introvert can be because you live in your own head a lot. Like your inner conversation has to be on point if you're an introvert,
Yeah.
because you can talk yourself or think yourself into depression, and and just being crazy, like literally. So I really realized in that time that I was only gonna get through that time if I could have some sense of control over my thoughts and the narrative I was telling myself. And I mean, there's other influences as well too. I was a musician in my growing up, man. I played the piano, played the drums, played in the orchestra, and I really
Nice.
believe, like, thank you, man. I really believe like those moments that as a musician, because you have to be mindful as a musician. Like when you're,
Sure.
especially if you're in the orchestra, like, and you're playing with different people and whatnot, you have the timing, like the just the processing of how a certain note is supposed to sound, like all those things. Like that's you have to be introspective to be able to tap into that. And so there were a lot of different experiences that throughout my life, my faith, prayer, all those things. That was a big part of me being able to go within myself and tap into that inner strength, man, that comes from God. Just knowing that there's more to this. There's always more, right? And just that those inner beliefs, man. So there's a lot of different influences that allowed me to tap into that moment. And I honestly felt a calling to write, like when I was in that time. And I started, and it brought me so much peace, and it allowed me to
Yeah.
see beyond my circumstances, man, to just get out of that moment where I'm just feeling like everything's lost, and everything's going
Yeah.
down. Like now I have something I can focus on gratitude. Like, what are the things that I do have, right? What are the things that are going right?
There you go.
There you
What
go.
opportunities do I have right now? And then I'm like, okay, I'm not, things ain't that bad. Like I'm gonna be all right. And just those little thoughts, man, compounding over time, man, is it just changed my situation.
So now, I
Awesome.
mean, you've reinvented yourself, Rennie, and you are an entrepreneur. And when people ask you what it is you do, you have an answer to that. And as we all know, that entrepreneurship comes with a grind, right? I mean,
Mhm.
we all decided we weren't going to work for the man for 40 hours a week, so we decided to work for ourselves for 80 hours a
Yeah.
week.
Yeah.
But how do you do that? How do you stay mindful when you've
Hmm.
got a grind, when you've got that entrepreneurial grind going on?
Yeah. I mean, it's a process, man. This is something that I took from my life as an athlete, and I just would question myself in terms of what made me successful as an athlete, right? And I was like, okay, if this over here made me successful as an athlete, then I can't really expect to be successful if I don't apply these principles, right? So I went back and I looked back, and I still do this. I go back and I look at, I dissect my experience, and I'm like, okay, what were the transferable skills that really, really set me apart? So one of the things was the discipline, having the structure, having a clear itinerary for my day. It was my mindset.
Mm.
It was having a team. It was, the resilience piece. It was being a student of the game, right? It was understanding competitive edge. Like so many, I can go down a list, and it was like and then I also broke down just the mindset that I was in when I was playing, how I approached challenges. When I saw a big offensive lineman, what did I think? Did I hesitate, or did I move, and did I act, and did I believe that I was going to dominate his ass? Like just those two things. Transferring that over into, like I said, integrating that into my new life has made things so much easier. Like now, and it's the little things. So, like, for example, after my games, I would sit down with a coach, with my position coach on that Monday, and we would look back at the film, and we would break down, my technique. We'd break down, what did I do right? What are my improvements? Well, I've now implemented that into my life as an entrepreneur. So I have my own review sheet that I created, where after every week I look at, okay, what were my wins? What were the things that went well? Did I have a good interview? Was it a good meeting? Good interaction with my daughter? The goals that I want to hit, did I hit those? My speaking engagement. Okay, write all those down. I tracked all my wins. And now what are my improvements? What are some areas that I can grow in? Write all those down. And then what are my goals that I want to accomplish for that next week? So implementing little things like that, man, is like really, really helped me as an entrepreneur, just really being mindful and maintaining that clarity and not getting caught up in success. Just always remembering that there's always room for improvement. And then also
Mm.
too, another major thing, this is the last thing I'll say about just that mindfulness and how it helps me. But just also being aware of my desires and my intentions, because that's
Mm.
something that really impacts you as an entrepreneur. If you're not clear on like why you're even doing what you want to do, why do you want to hit $1 million? Hey, if you go on social media right now, everybody's talking about, oh, 6 figures this, and just do real estate, and just do crypto. And it's like,
Yeah.
why do you want this? Why do you want 1,000 followers to like your pics? Like,
Yeah.
what's your intention? What's your desires? If you're not clear on that, you're gonna be doing what I call chasing ghosts. You know,
Mm.
yeah,
Like
you're
it.
gonna be chasing ghosts. And I call that like toxic ambition.
Oh
And
wow,
There
I
you
never heard
go.
that. I
I
like
like the
it.
yeah,
name of that.
that's a real thing, man. Toxic ambition is real.
Oh
There's
yeah.
so many of us who are chasing likes, chasing six
No shit.
figures, and it's not because we really want that. It's because deep down inside we don't feel like we're enough. And so
Hmm.
Right.
that toxic ambition looks like we're always trying to accomplish that next thing. We're always trying to write the next book. We're always trying to, and it's never enough.
We need
Mm.
that
So
social validation, right?
yeah,
Yeah. Big time. Well,
yeah,
you said some of the. I love that you have, and I'd like to go a little bit deeper into, your morning routine, or like, I
yeah,
feel like, tell me if I'm wrong, John. Like you have your own, Randy, you have your own like ASFAB. Is that right? After action. What is that?
The
After.
after action report,
What's it?
AAR, the after
Yeah. There
action
you
report
go.
in the
Yeah.
military. Kind of
Right.
vaguely.
Right. 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 So, but you mentioned you said like, oh, that these sound like small things, right? But they have a
Mm-hmm.
massive impact, because when we begin to develop a routine and have the discipline of self-reflection and whatever your practice might be, like, I'm a big journaler. I love meditating.
Yeah.
I love connecting and talking to other people, and have like coaches and stuff like that help me. But I always have a place, regardless of whatever my pursuit is, whether it's being in the show, or recording something for mindfulness, or doing a class, or working with a company. I always have something to come back to in order to reflect, and reassess of like what went really well, and then also how I can do things better. So I really love that you said that, because I mean, that's like when I was growing up as an athlete. I played basketball through college. My coaches would always say, it's like, regardless of how far you go with basketball, what you're developing is the discipline
Yeah.
required to be like a great person, to be a great business person, a great teacher.
Yeah.
So what are some of your what are some of your routines, like, that keep you fresh, that keeps your mind open to possibilities,
Yeah.
that keeps you moving forward more effectively as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, and I'm so glad you asked that, man. I'm all about routines, and I've seen the impact of it. It's a beautiful thing. And when I think about routines, I just think about my life in terms of a trajectory. And it's like
Mm.
all those little decisions that you make, man, that seem small, that just add up over time, that lead you here. And it's not just, your routine in terms of your work, but like your routine in terms of your relationships, and deciding to make that call or send that text, like how all those little things add up. Like when I spend that extra little bit of time with my daughter, and I put my phone down instead of like being all in it when we're together, right? Just all when we pray together and do devotion together, like all those little moments adding up to like us having an amazing relationship. And so my routine, man, it looks like when I wake up in the morning, I created my own acronym, but it's DPJ. So I do devotion, prayer, and journaling. And
I like it.
that's how
Nice.
yeah, man. And then I get into my MITs, which are my most important tasks.
Nice.
Man, I love it, man. You're
Yeah.
using the Seth My Steady Mind model, getting some 3-letter acronyms in there.
Right, right. Yeah, but it makes life so much easier, man. I know I've done my DPJ. It's like the point now where I just feel off if I don't do it. But
Mhm.
I have do my DPJ, and that's where I really get into just checking in with myself, and just getting that clarity, getting that direction, and getting clear on my desires and my intentions. That's where I start. That's where like my foundation is built for the day, and then I get into my most important tasks, like most important things I want to accomplish for that day that will make me feel like it's been a successful day. And then after my most important task, another thing I try to do is reward myself. I think as entrepreneurs, that's something we forget is how
Yeah.
important it is to reward yourself, even in the smallest ways, and how that programs your mind to just keep doing those things. And
Right.
so reward for myself may look like calling my friends and my family. It may look like eating a meal that I love. It might look like watching a Netflix show. It might look like playing the piano for 30 minutes.
So you're
Some
still playing?
Yeah, I still play.
Oh,
Yep.
nice,
I
man.
love it, man.
Beautiful. We have
Yeah.
to listen to you play sometime, man.
Oh
Is there a
yeah.
place that we can listen?
Yeah, I got some old YouTube videos up. You guys check it
Oh,
out.
man, I'm
Oh
gonna check that out
shit.
after the show.
Yeah.
Right
Yeah,
on.
man. Yeah. So
Me
that's
too.
like my routine, man. And then another thing that I try to do periodically is just go back and look at my vision. Like what's my vision? Where am I going? What's my 10-year vision? What's my 20-year vision? And I
Mm.
there's a mantra that I live by now, that I also lived while I was an athlete, but the mantra is operate at the level of your vision. And so,
Mm.
based off my vision, what does that require of me? Based off of like who I expect to be 10 years from now, what type of habits, what type of mannerisms, what type of energy do I need to have on a daily basis? That's one of the most powerful things that has helped me, man, in terms of a routine. Is just going back and asking myself, okay, what do I want to be 10 years from now, 20 years from now, and who do I want to be, most importantly, and what do I like? What does that person act like? How do they approach life? How do they approach challenges? And using that to set the standard for how hard I'm going to go now.
I was
I love
recently
it, Rennie. Thanks. Yeah.
Thank you,
on a
man.
Zoom call with Matthew McConaughey, right? and we asked him a few of the like his top tips, and at the end he was like, treat your future self well now. In this present day and age, treat your future. And I was like, oh man, what a great way to think about it. Like almost thinking like your future self is someone else, right? We treat other people really well. Why not treat our future self really well by treating the current self well? It's pretty cool. I love that. It's right in line with what you're doing. What about mindfulness and entrepreneurship? Are there any times that you see the two at least appearing to be in conflict with one another? I mean, I know, again, we've talked about the grind, and then we talked about mindfulness and being present. Do you see any times when they actually conflict?
Oh, all the time. All the time. I mean, especially in terms of like your thoughts and your energy. If you're not mindful of your thought, I call it your thought diet.
Love it,
I
Rennie.
love your little one-liners, man.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, when
same.
you really think about it, like, what's the difference between what we eat and the minds that, I mean, the thoughts that we allow to permeate our mind? It's the same thing,
Yeah.
and it's like I try to be mindful of that, right? Every time I pick up my phone, I go on social media. I kind of picture, I visualize like if I were to open up my pantry, right, or if I were to go into a grocery store, and if I'm just grabbing everything off the shelf and just consuming it, like what would I look like? Like.
Yeah.
But that's what we do a lot of times. Like we mindlessly scroll and just ingest all this useless information without being like aware of what we're allowing into our mind. And I just think it's so damaging. And so that's a major conflict. Just that challenge of like not like shutting that stuff off, man, and not allowing myself to just internalize all those different stimulus and those different messaging or messages that come at me, and then even for my own self, like not allowing my own thoughts to go to certain places, and just that's one thing I worked on with Seth, was like having different techniques to shut out those negative thoughts, and whether it's like picturing a toilet that you flush the negative thoughts down, or
there you go.
Like that. Yeah, but that's a challenge. And then even like when you might see somebody, right, and they're dressed a certain way, and you're like, why are they wearing it? Or like, it's just nothing that you even may say out loud, but just that thought that comes where you're judging somebody or you're like critiquing them or whatever. Like being mindful of that and not allowing myself to get in the habit of doing that repeatedly, because that same energy is what you're going to bring to yourself. And you're going to be like, if you have an idea or whatever, guess what? You're going to be just as critical and judgmental about yourself and your own thoughts as you are towards others. So I try to be really mindful of that, but it's a constant battle, a constant battle. Yeah.
But it sounds like you're continually winning that battle with the big D word, discipline, and the more you keep like exercising that discipline and beginning to slowly integrate these mindfulness practices in, you get naturally into more of that thought diet. So, you're more present. I'd imagine, like, because I imagine you're more present, you're more cognizant of what you're doing. And, but also keeping, what's interesting about the thoughts, right? That STIA process that we, the stimulus, thought, emotion, action that, Dr. Seth, who's now it's like his fourth time been mentioned here, My Steady Mind, which we love Dr. Seth. We're all three of us are part of his program and coaches with them. Is the more we exercise those things, like, the more we continue to remain more mindful, but also it's like we don't get down into those into that roller coaster of like, and especially I think all three of us, those expectations as an entrepreneur, are nice to envision and move towards, right? Because we have to have a plan and move towards, but by attaching ourselves too much, sometimes, and when it doesn't happen, it's like, whoa, then we get kind of the tidal wave of negativity that can come our way. I love your flow. I really enjoy how disciplined you are, and really how much of it came from your pursuit of trying to be, the greatest athlete that you possibly can, which you ended up achieving. So I love how it translates one to the other, and here we are having a conversation about mindfulness.
Crazy. Really,
it is.
And one thing that came to mind as you're talking about just the mindfulness and the impact of it too, I think, man, like being mindful of how your mind works too, and how like
Yeah.
how negative your mind can be. And it's like it's crazy because I think about so many people who aren't bad people, but it's like the way that our minds work, it can be such a challenge to even overcome, and even being aware that you need to overcome that. And what I mean by that is like your mind, as much as it helps you, it can hurt you just as much. And that's like so many things in life, like where it's like a double-edged sword. And that's been one of the biggest obstacles of like being mindful and like really developing myself. Um, and the ongoing thing is just unlearning certain things that help me in certain situations. Like even being overly ambitious in the athlete, like when I had to transition out of that culture and that hyper masculine environment, that became something that I had to unlearn. That really helped me as a linebacker, like going in every week, like wanting to smash somebody's head in and like wanted to
Body
add more.
bags.
Body bags.
Yeah, body bags, man. That set me apart. But if I took that same mindset to my relationships and my relationship with women, especially, it became toxic because now nothing's ever good enough. And
Right.
so like that was a big part of and still is, man. Like understanding like those things that were in my past life that helped me aren't necessarily always good. Like I have to understand the context of where it served me and know when to shut that off and
Right.
and lean on it. And then just being aware of my mind and the fact that my mind is here for like self-preservation and to protect me from harm and danger. So it's gonna plant certain thoughts that are ridiculous a lot of times that I have to be aware of too.
For sure.
Yeah.
Rennie, we're
Yeah.
gonna have to have you on another episode, man, because one of
Yeah,
the things
man.
that Will and I talk about quite often, and we were trying to implement a monthly episode specifically about this, is the benefits of the masculine mindset, but also where it can be harmful. And I don't want to call it toxic masculinity because masculinity in and of itself is not toxic, but sometimes we can be confined. We had some guests on, Ed Adams and Ed Frauenheim. They wrote a book called Reinventing Masculinity, and they talk about confined masculinity. And that's what a lot of us live in, is that confined space. So we'll have to have you on another episode to talk about that.
For sure.
Yeah, man, it's good stuff. And I think there's a lot of growth happening in society, specifically on the masculine side, and in opening up, and that's good to see. But I want to talk again more about the mindfulness and the entrepreneurship side.
Yeah.
And how mindfulness can make you that better entrepreneur. You've touched on a lot of it. Some things that I want to make sure we mention is, and you've touched on, the empathy side, which kind of helped you to write that book with your daughter and kind of start down that path. And that's empathy for others, empathy and compassion for yourself as well, what you need, and knowing who you are. But it also, a lot of the time as an entrepreneur, our mind's nonstop, and we're like, the more we think, the better we're going to do. The more we grind, the better we're going to do. But then when you just stop and you're quiet for a while and you settle your mind, a lot of the time ideas pop into your mind that wouldn't have been there if you hadn't taken that time to be quiet. So, it allows you to be more creative and actually more productive, more focused as that entrepreneur. But it also keeps us from being super impulsive. I know as an entrepreneur, I often look around and I'm looking at this bright shiny object over here and this bright shiny object over there, and I'm like, especially like you mentioned, Rennie, if you're on social media too much, then you can get consumed by that. But mindfulness can help you in being less impulsive and more deliberate about the decisions that you make. And like you said, you have to be deliberate. You have to know where it is you're going, but not only where it is you're going, why it is you want to go there. And so I don't really have a question associated with that, but I just wanted to make sure we covered that, because I think that's an important piece of why mindfulness can actually support your entrepreneurial role.
Yeah, I totally agree. And as you were speaking about that, like an analogy came to my mind, and I'm sure you guys have experienced this, where with your, you may get it, you may not, but with your computer, right? When your computer is running high, right? It's got a bunch of different windows open, or you got a bunch of different apps open. You have that internal cooling fan that turns on,
Yeah.
that makes sure it regulates the temperature so it doesn't explode. And I feel like that's what mindfulness is. Like that muscle,
I
the
love
more you
that.
train it,
Me
powerful
too.
in it, like the more you train that, it's like it becomes that internal mechanism that's playing in the background, where all those different thoughts are coming, you can just maintain that cool and regulate your emotions and whatnot. And it's like the more you practice that, the more you really don't, it's like something that you don't necessarily have to practice. It becomes like a part of who you are. It just becomes something that's involuntary, and
Yeah.
voluntary action that happens without you even sometimes knowing it. And I love that about mindfulness. And that will happen to me typically, when, especially now, when I'm getting ready to do a speaking engagement, right? And it's like we've all been in that moment where our, like, somebody's announcing us to come up, and then our heart starts beating fast,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I'm feeling it right now. I'm feeling it right now. Like,
Yeah.
oh shit, here we go. Woo, right there. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so by just practicing that mindfulness, man, and just being aware and all those things, it's like in that moment, yes, I start feeling it, but then I that internal fan kicks on, and I'm able to
Yep.
maintain that cool and dominate. And so I
Yep.
think it's such an important thing, man, as an entrepreneur, and especially like you just said, with all the different influences and distractions and
Yeah.
distortions that we face on a daily basis. Like, you have to. I don't know how people can get through a day, especially now with everything going on, without having some type of mindfulness practice or self-care
Yeah.
routine. And I'm at the
Yeah.
point now where I do it twice a day. I
Nice.
do meditation in the morning before I start, and then
Oh.
I do it midway through the day by like 2:33, and do it again, man. And it's changed everything.
Love
Yeah,
it.
I really enjoy that analogy of the fan kicking in, right, to
Hmm.
cool everything down, which is just literally blowing air in, right? But what we
Yeah.
can do, before we step on stage or before we get into like a day, is taking some time to breathe, right? Which is
Hmm.
which is air coming into our body, and it literally naturally cools
Yeah.
down this computer system that we have in our mind and connects us to the technology, that's
Yeah.
in our body instead of just in the mind, and it really can make a huge difference. Just even just why we like to work with the grounding practices in the beginning and the end, just to ground us, calm us down, so we can have we could be present for the show and be effective in the show, but also to teach people that it doesn't have to take yes, I enjoy my 20, 25, 30-minute, meditation practice, right?
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to be that long. It could just be 1 minute, 2 minutes, or just even 5 breaths that can
Yep.
make just a huge difference of clearing the mind, getting yourself here and now before you open your mouth again, or before you step on that stage, or
Yeah.
whatever else. Or maybe it's a more quiet, a creative pursuit that you're working with, but it really makes a big difference. And I like to say it really activates that biological brilliance that's in here, that's
Yeah.
in our body, and it lights up our brain just by calming down and breathing. So
Yes,
that's a
sir.
great analogy. Thank you, Rennie. Yeah.
Oh yeah. No problem. Wow.
So, Rennie, I want to be mindful here and be mindful of your time. So I just want to bring it home here. What's the best way for our listeners, our watchers, our audience to get a hold of you if they have any questions? And we'll make sure whatever you put out here is captured in the show notes.
Definitely, man. So the easiest way is just through my website. It's just renniecurran.com, and then I'm on social media, on LinkedIn, on Twitter, Instagram, all those, just all Rennie Curran, everything, man. So yeah, I
Awesome.
love
Yeah.
connecting with people, love networking, and definitely hope to come on and show again.
Right on. And we'll
Same.
make sure that's we'll make sure that's all
Yep.
captured. And I know your nonprofit, for those who are listening, is, correct me if I'm wrong, gamechangersfoundation.org. Is that right?
Yeah, Game Changers Foundation, GA.org.
GA.org. All right. I'll make sure that's right in the notes. There it is. And awesome. Rennie, this has been fantastic. Will, you want to bring it home with that closing practice?
I will. I just want to see if Rennie has any, brief closing wisdom for entrepreneurs or mindfulness
Yes.
students out there that you could, if you want to. You're already full of like all these amazing one-liners and acronyms and stuff. So anything else you'd like to share that could really help anybody out there that's, that just needs to be more mindful or wants to be a better entrepreneur, or even whatever, better in any part in their life.
Yeah, I'll just go back to what I said before, that mantra that I live by, man. Operate at the level of your vision. Ask yourself
There you go.
that perfect version of yourself 20 years from now, that has that
Mm,
legacy that you want, that has that business that you want, that has the family and the relationships that you want. How does that person act? How does that person manage their time and their energy? Okay, how does that
mm,
person handle the obstacles that come their way, and start, actually write that down and use
yeah.
that to challenge yourself, man. Measure yourself up against that perfect version of yourself, and like I said, it's gonna put you on the right trajectory to where it's only a matter of time before that becomes who you really are.
Right on.
Great. Thank
I'm
you,
glad you
Rennie.
didn't drop the body bags. I thought you were going to say, and we're going to go back to the mantra
Body
that we all live by, body
I
bags.
know, me too. And just remind everybody that Rennie is also a coach. So if you want him to walk you through that process, I'm sure you would love that opportunity to help some people, Rennie, out there. So anybody
yeah.
listening, hit up Rennie at at the place that we talked about. But let's close with our little, or Rennie, if you want to lead us in a little mindfulness practice, we'd be, for a few minutes, we'd love that. Or I mean, don't feel pressured. I
You
will
got it.
gladly
You got
do
it.
it.
Yeah.
I got it. All right. Okay,
I'm a
fine.
better listener.
I'm with you. So, all right, great. So thank you everybody for tuning in. Let's close this out just by, again, how many times every episode do we talk about how easy it is to get grounded, to be more mindful, to become more present, to access more of that biological brilliance by just taking a few moments to get quiet and find your breath. So, and you can even do this if you're, somewhere busy and walking around. Just hang with us for a few moments and just follow along. So close the eyes if that's comfortable and that's available to you, and you can ground your feet if you like, and maybe kind of get more into like a traditional posture, sitting up nice and tall, unslouch your shoulders and bring your chest up nice and tall. And let's start with a nice exhale out the mouth. And just feel that exhale helping you ground you deeper into your feet and into your sit bones. Take a big giant breath in. Exhale out the mouth, nice and easy. Feel the stress kind of lifting and leaving your body as you exhale. Let's do a few more like that. In, really big breath. Keep going. Inhale. Exhale, let it go. Last two. In. Out. One more big inhale. Out the mouth, easy. Let's just come back in and out through the nose. A nice, smooth breath. Really trying to keep that breath in your torso, dropping down deep into your pelvis, and dropping that breath down is a great natural way to help you relax and get into that rest and restore part of your nervous system. So you become less reactive and more proactive and responsive to the environment around you. And from this calming place, just take one thing that you can do to access your future self, a little bit more of your future self today. Just one thing you can do. Could be something small, could be something bigger, could be making that phone call or sending that email, whatever that is. Stay with your breath. See that ambition in your mind. Use the breath to make that image more vivid, but also to bring it down into your body and into your heart. So the breath kind of bridging the gap between the mind and the body. I'll do 3 more breaths, big inhales. And as we breathe and exhale, imagine yourself like stepping into that arena and stepping into more of your future self. Inhale really big. Exhale. Going after it a little bit more. Good. Inhale. Out. Good. Last breath and the first big step. Inhale. And let it go. Step forward. When you're ready, open the eyes, make a little smile on your face. And Rennie, thank you for sharing so much of your wisdom today. And John, we're definitely, and Rennie, if you're okay up to it, love to have you back talking about masculinity in the locker room and professional athletes. And I think really something that would serve our audience in a great way. And I love your mind and what's going on over there with you and the business and stuff that you're doing. So thank you, John. Anything to close before we close?
No, that's it. Again, another shameless plug for the show. Join us on YouTube, give us a like, subscribe, because we have great guests like this, like Rennie, and covering great topics like mindfulness and entrepreneurship and how they work together. So, Rennie, again, thank you so much for being with us today. Really appreciate you and your time. Until next time, my friend. We'll talk to you soon. Take care.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks, Rennie. Peace, gentlemen. Thank you.
Thanks for joining Will and John on Men Talking Mindfulness. If you enjoyed the show, please like and share it with your friends and family, and please, we would appreciate a review too. Until next time, this has been Men Talking Mindfulness. Thanks for showing up.